The background noise of the city is always going to be punctuated by the oldest church bell in all of Peterborough. That bell has been calling people to prayer and also announcing other important events since 1838. This church did not look like it does now. So when this church was built, glass was very expensive and very, very hard to transport. Usually you transported glass in barrels of molasses so that the pieces of glass wouldn't jostle and break. You can't imagine carrying pieces of glass 40 and 50 miles on your back. So these windows were not like this at all. The church was just up above the windows and it was flat. It was called Roman style, which is 90 degrees. And they built it up that far and up to about where you see the walls end. And so as well, they built galleries here because at those times you couldn't have mass on a Saturday night or a Sunday evening. They all had to be in the morning because you had to fast. So there were galleries that were up here on each side. And the altar was about where you see the pews ending. But think of the size of the trees. Beams went right across from one wall to another. We'll never see those trees in Ontario again. So they cut them, they cured them, they transported these huge beams, which we still have some of them up in the attic at this time. Then the population grew and we needed more space. So they kept expanding it. They would break out a wall and break out another wall. They gradually were able to have stained glass windows. These were not all put in at the same time by any means. All these spectacular stained glass windows were donated by descendants of the Peter Robinson settlers. And so they expanded a little more to that side, a bit more here, a bit more there. And in 1882, they expanded it a bit more when it was made a diocese on its own. That's it, under one bishop. And then in 1931, they cut the whole roof off, literally the whole roof. And they went up and they put in a steel superstructure and they put in beams. So these are fake pillars. And they went from being Roman, which is 90 degrees, to being Gothic, which is all peaked. And it's really pretty cool because they put beams into the walls and disguise them. But everything is peak, 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 peak. And that's what we call Gothic from northern France. They camouflage the beams to make them look like pillars. And functionally, what you see here now is what the church was in 1931. Labor must have been worth nothing in 1931. In the depth of the Depression, Bishop O'Connor did this. One of the newer aspects of the church, which tells how old this church is our mosaic. So that was done in 1967 as part of the last or fifth restoration. Most people think it's a picture. It's actually the third biggest mosaic in North America. It's 663,600 pieces of acrylic in 78 colors that's bonded with 3M cement to large, large pieces of plywood. And it depicts the celebration of the Eucharist at the Last Supper with Jesus, John on one side, Peter and James on the other. Should we say sort of the executive of the apostles, and above it is the descent of the Holy Spirit. So it was unveiled in 1967 on the installation of Bishop Morocco.
So where are we now?
We're in the crypt. It's the Crypt Museum.
I thought the crypt was like where people were buried.
It is.
Oh!
We're in the Crypt Museum.
Okay.
And that's it.
What?
That is the Crypt Mausoleum. So, do you want me to start with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Bishop Jameau, our first bishop, was buried here. Okay. And they also reinterred two other, the first and the third pastor, Farley and Butler, who were buried at the walls of the church. And then when they got expanded, they were reinterred and buried here as well. So there are 8 places here. 3 are occupied, obviously, and there's 5 more to go. Our current bishop has said that he wants to be buried here, and that leaves 4 more spaces. So the kids love it, that there's actually a real crypt. So this is a little higher than it looks. and it goes right back to the far wall. So there's 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 spaces for the bodies to be buried. It's considered quite an honor to be buried in the church.
I would think, and who gets to choose that they will or won't have a space?
Well, I
there?
suppose it would be the bishop at the time. But if the bishops decided to have someone buried here as a sign of honor, they would be able to be buried here.
They can designate somebody else could have that spot.
Yes. So you just break out the front. I know it looks like a barbecue in the front, but it's not. You break out the front and you go in and you'd inter the body. So that's what they did. It's always was considered quite an honor to be buried in the church or just beside the outside the walls. So the first and third pastor, before it was a cathedral, had literally given their lives to build a church. So they were buried here on either side. And as I said, when it got expanded over the years, over the decades, their bodies were reinterred here. Their tombstones are here from where they used to be on the wall, but now the bodies are here and their tombstones are down here. So these are copes or capes that we use outside of the celebration of Mass. And these are 1885, and they're all incredibly well done, but all hand done. So that silk and velvet, pretty delicate because silk can rot and the velvet, but they're all being restored. We have the purple one being restored now, but you can see the astonishing detail and handwork of this being done. And when you think that this is now 140 years old.
Will it just always stay here in this museum?
No, it's too damp down here. So we're going to keep it upstairs, and then it's going to have to be specially preserved. It's of an age where the cloth is very fragile. I wore it once, but I'm not big enough to wear it. So it was dragging on the ground. I had to keep my shoulders up and be on tiptoe. That was a difficult procession. But no, you can't really use them. They're far too delicate to use.